All right, today we're going to talk about pornography's effect on relationships, but probably not in the way you're used to. We're going to look at it from a really different angle, as a problem of neurobiology and pure design. To really get it, we have to kind of sidestep the usual arguments and just put the whole thing under a microscope. And that first step, the most important one, is to just set aside the moral debates for a minute. For this analysis, we're not asking if it's right or wrong. Instead, we're going to frame this as a design problem. Yeah, a design problem. We're talking about how a very specific kind of stimulus is engineered, and what happens when you feed that stimulus to a brain that, well, evolved in a completely different world. So to really dig in, we're going to approach this almost like a pharmacologist would. Think about it. We're objectively analyzing how a stimulus affects a biological system. What's the dose? What's the mechanism of action? And critically, what are the potential side effects? Okay, so let's start with the design. What exactly are we dealing with here when we talk about modern internet porn? The key term you've got to know is supraphysiologic dopaminergic stimulus. Whoa, okay, that's a mouthful, I know, but all it really means is an artificial trigger that gives your brain's reward system a much, much bigger kick than anything you'd ever find in nature. It's like a super concentrated dose. And this is where the design gets really interesting. It's this completely unnatural combination of things, all hitting at once. Super high novelty. It's instantly accessible. It takes zero effort, and there's infinite variety. Just think about that mix for a second. That specific cocktail of features has literally never existed in human history until very, very recently. So what happens when this completely unnatural stimulus meets our very natural, ancient brain wiring? Well, let's dive into the brain's reward circuit to see how this all plays out. Okay, so our entire sexual response system, it runs on dopamine. And dopamine isn't just the pleasure chemical. That's a bit of a myth. It's about motivation, it's about drive, it's about spotting something new and interesting, and it's about predicting a reward. And what's wild is that internet porn seems almost perfectly engineered to hijack every single one of those functions. And this brings us to another really cool concept, the supernormal stimulus. This actually comes from old animal studies. Scientists found that animals would often choose an exaggerated artificial version of something over the real natural thing. Like a bird that would rather sit on a giant, brightly colored fake egg instead of its own. It's just so much more stimulating. And this comparison here just lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you have a real partner that requires mutual effort, they have a natural body, and the novelty is, well, it's limited, it's real. On the other side, the artificial super stimulus, zero effort, often unrealistic bodies, endless novelty, and you can switch instantly. From a purely chemical perspective, the brain is a machine that seeks the biggest reward for the least effort. And, well, you can see which one wins that contest. But wait, there's more. The way it's consumed, all that scrolling, clicking, searching for just the right thing, it basically turns your sexuality into a slot machine. It creates something called a variable reward schedule. You never know when you'll hit the jackpot. And that kind of unpredictable reward, it's literally one of the most powerful ways known to science to build a rock-solid, hard-to-break habit. Okay, so that's the mechanism. But what are the potential side effects of this in the real world, specifically inside a relationship? Let's look at it from that clinical perspective we talked about. All right, side effect number one, dopamine desensitization. It's pretty simple, really. If you keep blasting your brain with this super high level of stimulation, your brain does what it's designed to do. It adapts. It literally starts turning down the volume. Your dopamine receptors become less sensitive, basically to protect themselves from being completely fried. And the result of your brain turning down that volume? Well, it's pretty straightforward. Real sex can start to feel less intense, maybe even a little boring. You might find that arousal requires more and more novelty, which can lead you to search for more and more extreme content. And yeah, in some cases, it can even lead to what's called psychogenic ED. That's erectile dysfunction that's rooted in psychology, not physiology. Now for side effect number two, and this one is huge, the weakening of the pair bond. See, when you orgasm, your brain releases this cocktail of bonding chemicals like oxytocin. These chemicals basically tell your brain, hey, this thing right here, this is important. Bond with this. The brain reinforces a connection to whatever stimulus is present at that moment. So, if that stimulus is consistently a screen, you can see how the wiring might start to favor the screen over your actual partner.
And this goes beyond just sex, too. It can become a powerful tool for avoiding tough emotions. Think about it. You feel stressed, you're in a conflict, and porn offers this instant, easy escape with a guaranteed dopamine hit. If you do that enough, your brain learns the pattern. It encodes this avoidance loop and starts seeing it as the go-to solution for stress, which can make it a lot harder to actually face and work through real problems with a real person.
So, the big question is, how do you know if any of this is actually having a real effect on you? Let's get practical and talk about checking for the symptoms.
But first, a really important point. This is not a black and white, on or off kind of thing. It's a spectrum. It's a classic dose-response issue. The effect is different for everyone and depends on a ton of stuff. How often you use it, how old you were when you started, the health of your actual relationship, all of it matters.
That said, there are some pretty clear warning signs, some red flags, you could say, that the artificial stimulus is starting to win out. Things like finding your real partner less arousing than what's on the screen, or needing porn just to be able to climax. Maybe you've noticed an escalation to more extreme stuff, or you're starting to get irritable if you go without it. Even things like hiding it from your partner. These are all signs that the brain's wiring might be shifting.
Okay, so if any of that sounds a little too familiar, what can you actually do about it? Well, here's the good news. Your brain is incredibly adaptable. So let's talk about a framework for actually changing things. And this is the single most hopeful idea in this whole discussion. Neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to rewire itself, is a two-way street. It's the same mechanism that created these patterns in the first place, and it's the exact same mechanism you can use to undo them. This process is absolutely reversible. So here it is, a practical 5-step framework to start retraining those circuits. First, you've got to reduce the novelty exposure. Second, start practicing delayed gratification in general. Third, put some limits on solo climax. Fourth, and this is a big one, increase non-sexual physical intimacy to help rebuild those bonding pathways. And finally, you have to actively, consciously train your arousal to focus back onto your real partner. And all of this really brings us to the big picture, right? Our mating psychology, our desires, they all evolved over millions of years in a world of scarcity. Mating opportunities were rare, and they took a ton of effort. Modern porn is the exact opposite. It's a world of engineered infinite abundance. And when you completely remove all the friction, all the constraints, well, desire itself starts to change. Which leaves us with the final question. And it's not about what's good or bad for everyone. It's a personal question that requires you to look at your own data. For you, is it just a harmless outlet, or is it silently diluting the connection, the intensity of your real-life pair bond? The answer isn't about ideology. It's about looking at the results in your own life.